Donald Trump says he will give another 2 weeks to Russia to decide whether Putin is serious about peace in Ukraine. The president says he will change course if he determines that the Kremlin is, quote, tapping us along. He did not specify what his response would be. CNN is reporting that the president is at least considering fresh sanctions on Russia. Germany, meanwhile, is stepping up its military support for Ukraine. Chancellor Friedrich Merz and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky met today in Berlin. You see them there. The chancellor says that Germany will help Kyiv produce long-range weapons jointly.
We
are financing a considerable part of the country's Starlink cover, and our defence ministers will today sign a memorandum of understanding on the procurement of long-range weapon systems from Ukrainian production, so-called long-range fires. There will be no range restrictions. Ukraine will thus be able to defend itself fully, even against military targets outside its own territory.
Ukraine launched a drone attack overnight on Moscow, forcing airports in and around the Russian capital to close. Kyiv says the 2 drone manufacturing facilities were hit in that attack. Video posted on social media, geolocated as well by CNN, shows smoke rising at one of those factories. Ukraine is trying to hamper Russia's withering assaults, many of which have come with just dozens of drones. Over the last couple of weeks, Russia has launched some of its biggest strikes since the start of its full-scale invasion. Ukrainian officials say the strikes this weekend killed 12 people. Zelensky said on Sunday, America's silence in the midst of these attacks only encourages Vladimir Putin. Oleksandra Matviichuk is the head of Ukraine's Center for Civil Liberties, which won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2022, and she joins me now from Kyiv. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you for the invitation.
You're, of course, experiencing these attacks over the last several days and, of course, weeks and months, deliberate Russian attacks on civilian targets in Kyiv. I just wonder what the level of fear is there now, and do you take the prospect of peace talks with Russia taking part seriously?
Russia intensified attacks to Kyiv and to other Ukrainian cities in recent weeks and killed a lot of people. Just recently, we have a funeral of a young mother who was killed by drones in Kyiv region. She covered her 4-year-old son with her body. Her son was survived and got to hospital. So I don't see that Putin plan to conclude the peace. It's a sign that Putin wants to continue the war.
Yet today, President Trump, who has delayed imposing new sanctions on Russia for weeks and months now, has said he's going to give another 2 weeks to decide whether the Russian president is serious. Do you trust the U.S. president to do what's right for Ukraine?
I think we have to understand the reality. And the reality is that Putin started this large-scale war not because he wanted to occupy just more part of Ukrainian land. Putin started this large-scale war because he wanted to occupy and destroy the whole Ukraine and move further. His logic is historical. He dreams about his legacy. He wants to forcibly restore Soviet empire. And that is why we must demonstrate strength to make Putin understand that it's impossible for him to achieve his goal. In another way, he will just postpone it in a time.
Who do you and other Ukrainians you work with in your mission there, who do you rely on now to help defend Ukraine? Certainly European leaders, some of them have been publicly expressing support and delivering more aid. Who do you believe is actually on your side now in this war?
We are very grateful for all countries and people in the United States and other countries as well for support and for being with us in this dramatic time of our history. But we rely on our own shoulders, or we rely on people in Ukraine, because we are paying the highest price just for a chance to be free and not to return to the state when we was a Russian colony.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk now from outside the country that the Ukrainian people are becoming exhausted with the war. They've lost so many of their sons and daughters in the fighting, their friends, their colleagues, their mothers, their fathers. Do you sense that? Do you sense exhaustion with the war there?
The war is horrible, and Russia uses war crimes as the methods of warfare. That's why millions of people in Ukraine are suffering. But we have no alternative, because if we stop fighting, we will cease to exist. Putin openly says there is no Ukrainian nation, there is no Ukrainian language, there is no Ukrainian culture. They impose terror in occupied territories. They physically exterminate active local people there, priests, children writers, lawyers, environmentalists, teachers, journalists, mayors, like any active people of community. They banned Ukrainian language and culture. They destroyed and robbed Ukrainian cultural heritage. They take Ukrainian children, separated them with their families, and legally deported them to Russia. So we have no other choice. Even if we are exhausted, if we stop fighting, we will cease to exist.
After World War II, of course, you had the Nuremberg trials. You had an effort to prosecute and hold people accountable for war crimes. Do you believe that those victims of Russian attacks, Russian torture, the children who were taken away from their mothers, do you think that Russia will face justice?
This is the most documented war in human history. In our database, Tribunal for Putin Initiative, we have documented more than 87,000 episodes of war crimes. And international crimes has no statute of limitations. It means that if today we have no chance to prosecute Putin and top political leadership and high military command, tomorrow, when situation will change, we will do it. Because we must break the circle of impunity which Russia enjoyed for decades. All this hell which we now face in Ukraine, it's a result of this impunity. Russia committed crimes in Chechnya, in Moldova, in Georgia, in Mali, in Libya, in Syria. So with our justice efforts, we are preventing the next Russian attack to the next nation.
Oleksandra Matviichuk, we certainly appreciate the work you're doing there, and we wish you safety in the midst of these ongoing attacks.